Welcome to the show, everyone. Today's guest is Robert Hunt. Robert has been a leader in marketing and sales for most of his career and found his true calling in 2013 when he began to focus on working with business owners and CEOs in Dallas, Texas, to help them become better versions of themselves. This pivot was not just a career change, but a profound commitment to impacting lives and businesses. Through Robert's CEO group, his mission is simple: to help leaders become the best version of themselves. The vision is for a community of business leaders to come together, bound by love, care, and mutual respect, all striving for excellence in every aspect of their lives. In addition to his role as a forum and group leader, Robert is deeply committed to one-on-one leadership coaching, where he can personally engage with leaders, emphasizing accountability and the pursuit of excellence. I'm excited to have Robert on the show today to share how he engages with business leaders, emphasizing accountability and the pursuit of excellence. And with that, Robert Hunt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That is the best introduction I've heard all day.
It's all about you, my man. And I'm excited to dig in to learn more about your story. I know you've had a very experienced career, have gone down a variety of winding pathways to end up where you're at today. And I know the audience will love hearing your story.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with that, let's talk about where it began. What was childhood like for you? Where'd you grow up, and what were some of your influences?
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California in Orange County area. And I moved here to Texas in 2010, but I was there all my life until then. My childhood was, as a child, I think there was some great times. We had great imaginations. We played. The only time you knew to go home was when the street light came on. A lot of independence and friends and stuff. But I had a very bad father. I had a guy who was broken, who was full of anger and rage, and I watched him beat my mom and us kids many times throughout my life. I was horribly frightened of him, and so I learned, if you can just avoid him, you're fine. Don't stay away from him, because you never even knew why he was going to be mad. So it kind of was how I looked at God for a lot of my life. Just don't piss off God and you'll be okay. And so what's the most I can get away with before he strikes me dead with a lightning bolt,
Mm.
kind of a mentality of God. And I kind of walked that way till my 30s, and when I really figured out what it was like to really walk with God. But that's my perspective of God, was based on my father. And so it was tough. But we have times in our lives that we learn from, and it's part of who we are today.
Yeah, for sure. When you said California and just making an estimate of what your age is, similar to mine, you grew up in California all the way till 2010. You had to see a tremendous amount of change in California in that time frame. Yeah.
Frisco feels a lot like Orange County did when I was a kid. Farm areas around,
Mm.
green pastures in parts. We didn't have cows, but there were orange groves everywhere, lots of farms and stuff. And then bit by bit, they got encroached in by buildings and communities and such. And it was a great place. Everyone liked everyone. Everyone was glad to be there. Everyone was from different parts of the world, and nobody cared. It was just a really good place. And maybe that was me just as a kid. And since I didn't have life issues, I looked at everyone, my Mexican friends, my black friends, my Chinese
Mhm.
friends. Everybody was just friends.
Nobody cared.
We didn't have lines like that. I remember my high school year, I finally found some nationality I didn't like when people from Iran came into our schools. At the time, they had taken hostages, and
Mm.
they left Iran for their safety to avoid persecution. And my response was, I don't like you because of that story.
Yeah.
And it was sad, because they were actually opposite of that story. They were
Right.
leaving because of that guy.
Right.
It was my first moment of prejudice that I just had experienced. Wow, you're like those people. And that was the assumption I made. And I can remember I just remember that it was a weird feeling, like, God, there's actually a group of people now I don't like. That
Yeah.
was weird.
That is, it's interesting. I've had a couple friends that grew up, are native Californians, and now live in Texas, and they have similar great recollection of what it was like to grow up in California in the 70s and the 80s, and just how wide open it was, how it was this land of opportunity and sort of the Wild West in terms of you can build your life, be what you want to be. Nobody really cared who you were, what you were. It was just like, hey, we're all out here kind of seeking our our treasure, or seeking whatever it is that we're trying to build. I have a friend that's like, man, when I grew up, and when he was a preteen and early teenager, he's like, we used to ride around on dirt bikes with a 22 rifle on our back and shoot rabbits. And he's
Yeah.
in just outside of, in Orange County, basically. So outside of LA. And, right around, he said there was massive amounts of just open terrain. You'd
Yep.
ride around and we'd shoot rabbits. Nobody cared less, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing, no
Those are the
fear
good
around
old
it,
days.
no big deal. And it's unfortunate how, again, I go to California, I have some family out there. So we get there, yeah, once or twice a year, usually most years. And it's such a beautiful state. And yet, it's got so many problems and challenges, I think, just from crazy decision making and bad economic decisions and all sorts of things. So it's unfortunate because it is an incredible state with unbelievable natural resources. We tend to go to the desert in Palm Springs in the wintertime.
Oh, that's
We
beautiful.
love to watch the tennis tournament that's out there. There's a big Indian Wells tennis tournament,
Yeah.
and it is just incredible. You have fruit trees in the backyard. You pick your breakfast off the tree, get grapefruit and lemons, and just have incredible food. And it's an incredible state. It's in a bad spot right now, unfortunately.
Well, it's an example of poor stewardship. And, we in Texas have to take that model and think about it.
Yeah.
We could be just as broken if we
Yes.
follow the same track. You have great resources, there's great responsibility. And so stewarding what you have, whether it's your family or your business or your state, there's a responsibility to really be wise about that.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Um, okay. So you're growing up. You're avoiding your dad. You have siblings. Did you have
Yeah. Two
you know,
brothers, two sisters. They're all older.
all older? So you're the youngest.
I am the baby.
All right, my man. I can appreciate that. I'm also the baby in my home. Were you a sporty kid, an artsy kid? Did you
I
music?
was a lazy kid. I
Okay.
was a watch TV every moment I could kid.
Right on.
And that was probably the standard of my life all the way through high school and college. Just get by, do the very least I had to do. It wasn't until I got in the business world and I realized that nobody cares. You show up and you don't do a good job, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
And it was a really wake up call. I remember my boss telling me, "Look, nobody does care,
Yeah.
about these things." I was very famous to just think, well, it's not right, or I would make excuses for things, and I always seem to be just on the back of my heels trying to figure out what to do next. And it wasn't until I hit the wall a few times that I realized, okay, I got to figure out a different way of living. I got to have a different way of doing this, being more intentional in my life. But I was a pretty lazy kid throughout all that.
So you went to college?
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you have a plan like, okay, I'm going to go to college to get a business degree, or what was your idea
Yeah,
going
I
in?
thought business because I like the idea of owning business and being in business. I was always kind of entrepreneurial spirited as a kid,
Mm.
taking on projects. I mowed people's yards when I was 10 years old, and I would push the lawnmower for blocks to get to someone's house. It was a push mower, the
Right.
kind that the blades turned by you
No
pushing it.
helper. Right.
Yeah, no gas required.
Right.
But I went to college because that's what you're supposed to do. And then I graduated and went into advertising. That was my degree.
Okay.
And I didn't have any vision for my life. I'll just make money. We were pretty poor. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how poor we were until I got money. I
Yeah.
remember my first part-time job going to college that I really had a full-time job, which was mostly part-time, but I worked a lot of hours in that. It was at a grocery store at Alpha Beta. And I remember telling my mom, I made $28,000 last year. And she's like, that's more than I make. And I'm thinking, how does my mom take care of all of us kids
Yeah.
making less than I make? And I work part-time at a grocery store.
Yeah.
It was a wake-up call just about money and such. And one standard I did develop early was spend more than you earn. Always try and live paycheck to paycheck. It was a really bad
I'm like, wait,
habit.
that's backwards, isn't it? Spend
Well,
more than you earn.
that's how I did though. That
Right.
was the life I began early on, and I got paid, and I would stock up the groceries and buy food, and then get gas in the car, and then I'd wait for the next paycheck to come because
Yeah.
that's all
It's
there is
gone.
left, man.
Right. Right. And so, okay, so you get your advertising degree, and then any good or what memories of that first job out of school, out of college, first kind of professional job?
I
What?
took the job at this advertising agency because the guy who worked there went to my church, and I went to his office after getting ready to graduate, and I said, "Hey, I want to work for you because I know you're a Christ follower, and I want to start my career off with godly men who will guide me." And he said, "Well,
That's
that's
pretty
great,
wise. That's
but we're
wise
not
for a
hiring."
20 something, right? That's
Yeah, well, I mean, I needed men in my life. I had learned through a couple other people, like my youth leader and a couple people I'd met at different points in my life who really modeled godliness in my life, that there was another version of life than I had understood from my father. And so I looked at those men, I looked up to those men. Pete was one of those guys that I thought, this guy's cool. I want to be like Pete. So I went to Pete's advertising agency and they weren't hiring. I said, well, I'll work for $24,000 a year. That's what my ad agency professor said I should make as an advertising coordinator. He's like, hold on a second. And they brought in the owner. He's like, yeah, you're hired. 24,000, come on.
We'll
And
do
it was
that.
it was
Yeah.
cheap for them. And so it was the start of my career. But I learned early on that it was all about billables and kissing clients' feet. And I just wasn't into that. I thought we were going to be creative. And I also realized that they lacked integrity, that
Mm,
they did all the things that people in business justify by, well, you really can't afford to pay these software companies to license all the computers. We'll just buy it for one and we'll use it everywhere. And then when
mm,
I challenged, I said, isn't that stealing? And they're like, boy, you got to learn about business. Business has some very, and I thought, wait, are we going to now have a business faith and then a
right.
church faith? And
Different
it was
rules.
it was a weird turning point in my life about I guess I can play the game. I guess I can have a business or life. So when I got the next job or a couple of different jobs later, I remember leading a Sunday school class at my church and then taking my clients to nudie bars. And so
Yeah.
I had two different lives of who I was because there was a work faith and there was a church faith, and they were very different. God forbid those guys ever met somewhere. It would be a
Yeah.
really weird moment.
Right. Right. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, the fact that you felt that at such a young age is powerful to me because it took me a long time to feel that. It took me longer time. I was probably in my mid 30s. Trying to think here. For me, the real awakening came when my daughter was born. So our daughter was born,
Yeah.
and I started to think, man, I can't be two different humans. Like I can't if she were to walk in the room and I'm in a business mode and I
Right.
were to be embarrassed by what she saw when she walked in the room, I'm not living right because I don't want
You're
to be
so
two different
right.
people. I don't want to go
Yeah.
home and be a good dad and then go to work and be someone she's not proud of. So but it took until that point, till being a father, that I had that awakening. It sounds like you
Mhm.
had it even well before that.
Well, I had it in 1995, 94. Oh golly. So 1994, I went to a Promise Keepers conference in Anaheim Stadium where the Angels play,
Yeah.
and whole stadium full of guys worshiping the Lord and singing praise songs. And I'm like, why am I not getting this? Why are they so into this? This is just like church.
Mm,
What is the big deal about Jesus? Here I grew up in church my whole life. I could tell you all the scriptures, I could tell you all the stories, but I didn't have a relationship with God.
yeah.
And I remember that day just going, I just feel like I'm missing something. That day, everyone has this thing I don't have. So I just remember praying, Lord, I want to know what it's like to be completely sold out for you, not a work
Mm,
faith and a church faith, but just one faith. And I just surrendered my life to the Lord that day. And I just felt a freedom, just a lightness in my heart and my spirit because of that. And that was the turning point in my life. That's when I really surrendered to God. That's when I really understood what the presence of the Lord looked like. I couldn't read the Bible enough. I couldn't talk to him enough. I was always telling people about what I was reading and thinking and asking people what they thought. It wasn't religious, it was joy. It was this power, this feeling of happiness because I really knew God. And that was the turning point for me in May of 1994.
May of 94. So that promise, you come out of that Promise Keepers event, and that was the moment when you were like, okay. And so what happens then? Does a change happen or where do things go?
Yeah. 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 So 94, I'm all excited. I'm telling my wife, we got a 2-year-old daughter at the time. This is so great. I'm super excited. Hey, some of these things we've been doing the last few years, I don't think we're really walking with the Lord. I need to change what TV shows I watch and the music I'm listening to. And I think we're
Mm,
spending too much time partying and we need to pull back and let's just see what it would look like in our marriage. So I had a ceremony to celebrate our 10-year anniversary that summer. I surprised her and I recommitted to be the godly man she deserves. And she cried and it was a wonderful day and had all the people in our wedding party there. And it was just magical. And then 2 months later, I got divorce papers at the office, and I came home and the house was empty, and she and my 2-year-old daughter were gone.
oh my.
And I remember standing in the kitchen, and I said, "Wow, God, this is the thanks I get for surrendering my life to you." And he very clearly said, "No, I was getting you ready for today."
Mm,
And I was that night I was thinking I'm going to leave and go to Maui and grow mushrooms on cow pies and sell them to the local tourists. I had smoked weed with a guy in college who had told me he lived in Hawaii for a year and he grew mushrooms on cow pies and sold them to the tourists in honey jars. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just go to Maui and I'll just run a jet ski thing. But then I remember I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I remembered that God has not abandoned me. And
mm,
it was a horrible night. But I just saw God's hand carry me through those days. I went through a bankruptcy. I lost everything. She garnished half of my salary. I mean, everything I had worked so hard for, I lost in one day. And I just really realized it wasn't that important. What I really wanted was my wife and my daughter, and I couldn't have those anymore. So it was a tough time, but I will tell you, I was close to God. He was very close to me, and he provided everything I could have needed. I found a place to live that would give a room for me and a room for my daughter for very, very cheap with really nice people. It's actually my brother-in-law, her brother,
Mm,
let us live in the place he was living in. And random people brought over bags of clothing for my daughter to have her own clothes at our house. And
mm.
my work went through the ceiling. I did $48 million in sales that year, and I never even showed up for half of the year. I just didn't want to work anymore. I was like, I quit. I don't care. And God, which is really a bad timing because they do your divorce, the money that you pay your wife based on how much money you make. And I was making stupid money that year. So God
Wow.
provided for my ex-wife to be able to have the money she needed. And,
Right.
um, she's walked away from the Lord, and I pray that someday she'll come back. And I do pray for her. And but those were really ugly times, and yet really rich times of trusting God through it all.
Man, those moments, right, when we get kicked and I so appreciate you saying that reaction was, so this is the thanks I get, right? I've trusted in you, I put my faith in you, I'm on fire for you, and I get kicked right in the teeth. And so thanks a lot, right? And I thought it was going to be just milk and honey, right? I found you, so it's all milk and honey from here, and there's never a promise of that in the Bible, right? There's never a
No, it's quite
promise.
the
It's
opposite.
quite the opposite. It's all
Yeah,
about picking up your cross, right? And I
that's
love
right.
this that notion of feeling and hearing the Lord say, "No, I was preparing you for this moment. You need me now more than ever. And if you didn't have me, I don't know. Had you considered, like, if you weren't in that place with the Lord, and if you didn't have that faith,
Oh, Maui, Maui.
you're going to Maui.
I
Yeah,
would have been to Maui. I would have been selling mushrooms to tourists. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
it is. I have seen enough things in my life to know that if you walk with God in obedience, He will provide everything you ever need, period.
yeah.
Not everything you want, but everything you need. He is a loving Father. He's a powerful God. He's intimately involved in our lives. And I have seen Him time after time after time show up and do just at the right time everything I need. I can never do this.
Yeah.
This is a picture of $10,000 that one of my clients gave me in cash one night when we were having dinner. And he said, "The Lord just told me to give you this money." I was flat broke that day. And the Lord just brought in tax-free dollars. Here's $10,000 in cash. And I just sobbed and I said, "You have
Yeah.
no idea how broke I am today." And I could tell you story after story how good He is. When we walk in obedience, He will provide everything we need. The discipline that is required to walk in obedience is what produces the rewards. It's not, I don't do it to get the rewards. I do it because I love God and I know who He is. He deserves my obedience. But I have found obedience brings blessings in our lives.
Mm. So powerful, man. That story about the cash. If you do you watch the movie or the TV show The Chosen? Jonathan
Mm-mm.
Rumi. It's a show that follows the Jesus, right? So Jonathan Rumi plays Jesus in this
Heard
show,
about it.
and it tracks the Bible, and it adds a little bit of, okay, there's some, they got to fill some other gaps around. Okay, this is what Jesus would have said when he's walking to Emmaus or what have you, and it's entertaining. But we've watched some documentary. It's a great show. We've watched some documentaries now about it and some behind the scenes stuff. And Jonathan Rumi talks about before he got that role, he was broke. He was absolutely broke. He was trying to be an actor. He was having no success, or just enough to kind of stay alive. And then he'd had some downturns, and he was broke, 100% broke. And he said my checking account was overdrawn. It was overdrawn by $80. He had negative balance $80. And he's like, I was getting ready to just fold up the tent, and I didn't know where I was going. And he said, he prayed, and he got four checks in the mail the next day. A check for $50 from like residuals that he had gotten from things that he had done years ago that he had long forgotten about. And he gets these, whatever they call the Screen Actors Guild thing.
Yeah, those residuals. Yeah.
Yeah. So residual checks come in the mail, these four checks, a $50 check, a $100 check, a $150 check, and a $200 check. Land, and he opens them up one after another in succession, 50, 100, 150. And he's like, starts sobbing, right? He starts sobbing, and he realizes You're like, oh my gosh. And then a week later, he gets like $1,000 check. And then shortly after that, he gets offered this take this role for The Chosen, which has become a massive commercial success and multiple seasons, and it's completely changed his life. But he's like that moment of he said, I was broken, I surrendered, I prayed like God, I can't do this. Like I'm done. I need you and I'm out. And he said, and he provided, God provided. So incredible to have that same moment where you're like, I'm $0 and here comes 10,000 out of nowhere. You know, it's incredible to see the Lord work. Again, no guarantees, right? No guarantees. And this is I think where people that maybe don't have a faith life, and certainly where I've had questions in my past of there's no guarantee that okay, I'm broke today. Where's my money, Lord? Where's my check? It's like the sanctification, the trial might go on longer than we think it's going to go on. It might take longer, but the Lord is a faithful Father, right? He's there for us.
Well,
And
and it all depends on your definition of broke. I
yeah,
mean, because I've been broke, and I've been broke.
yeah,
And so, when you look at your life and you think, well, God isn't providing for me, but then I set a standard of living that I had to have this house, these
mm,
cars, all this stuff. That's how Kathy and I got into $90,000 in debt because we decided that this is the life we're going to live no matter what. And when the business was going a little like this, the money kept going like this. And
mm,
we got so stretched out, owing the government for the business, loading up credit cards, that in 2019, we owed $90,000 in debt. And God is not responsible to unhook our $90,000 debt. We did that. That was
right,
our choice. And so then I remember that year in January, Kathy's like, when's God going to bless your business? Oh, well, he has blessed it. He just didn't bless it enough to pay off the stupid spending that we kept doing,
right,
that we chose to do, that we had a standard of living that we had to have. God could have easily taken care of all of my needs if I lived here where I live today,
yeah,
but we weren't willing to adjust our living. So you have the opportunity to not put the screws to God to
mm,
somehow cover your bet that you just decide to live a certain lifestyle that he needs to show up and pay for.
right,
That's so disrespectful to God. He gave his all. He gave his son and died for you. And it gives you eternal life and forgiveness of sins. And so now he has to pay for your bills.
right,
It's just so rude.
right.
And so we learned the hard way that we're not to put anything above God. And that lifestyle meant more to us than being obedient to the Lord. And we had to reset the clock. And that's what the book Nobody Cares is all about. That was that point in our lives where we said, look, nobody cares. Nobody cares if we're miserable in our marriage, if we're stupid in debt, if we're stressing out and worried and fearful. Nobody cares unless we care enough to do something about it and change our lives. And that's exactly what we did.
So in 2019, you set about changing your life and changing some things relative to how you were living and your expenses, the cost of living, the things that you were doing. Talk a bit about that. What did that look like?
Yeah, my wife's my business partner, and every year we'd have it in January. What's this year going to look like? What are we going to do with our initiatives? And then in that January, we whiteboarded and we came to the conclusion that we weren't happy with the life we were living, and it was being caused by us.
Mm,
And were we willing to change that? And so we decided, listen, if God doesn't bless us and take care of our debt this year, we're going to sell this house and we're going to use the equity and start over. Because we had a lot of equity in the house,
mm,
but we didn't want to sell the house. We loved the house. Movie theater upstairs. It was huge. We could entertain. It was just
mm.
fabulous. So all year long, we're working super hard and going, okay, Lord, show up.
Yeah,
Come bring me a million clients and get him prepay and let me get not only enough money to live on that was already higher than it should be, but enough to pay off the $90,000 debt. He didn't do that. He didn't give me that. Instead, he gave me vertigo. In September of that year, I got vertigo for 16 days. And I remember halfway through it, turning to Kathy and go, we're screwed.
yeah.
If I have vertigo the rest of my life, we are screwed. We owe $90,000 and I can't work anymore. This is the end. God took it away after 16 days. And it was that day we decided, okay, we're selling the house. We're going to start. And so we engaged a real estate agent, sold the house, and moved into this place that we rent today 5 years ago when COVID shut down the world. We moved into here.
Yeah.
And then we paid off everything and we were debt free and we started over. And the peace that I had was remarkable because I got used to living in stress and worry and fear and
Mm,
anxiety that it was just normal. This is how I roll. But when I took it away, it was incredible the amount of peace that I had. I will never again live a life where I put the screws to God to provide for me what I want. He's
mm.
already given me more than I deserve, really, truly more than I deserve. And I am a rich man and I have everything. And so I'm going to live like that. And that was the turning point for us, is owning it. When you take accountability for your life, you gain the power to change everything in your life. And so we did. That's include going to marriage counseling because all those years of stress had really taken a toll on our marriage, and getting healthy and looking at our relationship with our kids and our relationship with the Lord. All those things were up for grab since we had conquered this mountain. We could now do anything, and we have. We continually work on owning it. That's the definition of accountability, is you own it. And we're continuing to get better and better at it all the time.
Man, that's awesome. So that happens in 2019, 2020 kind of time frame.
Yeah.
Yep. And is that when you start your CEO group as well, or has that already been happening at
No, I
that?
started it, and that's how come I got $90,000 into debt. I
Okay.
was starting in 2013. I no longer had a job that paid me money. And so I had to start whatever I could earn is what I got.
Yeah.
And I was part of a franchise, so they took their cut, and I was partnering with someone else, and he took his cut. So we had very little money for the first couple of years, and then
Mm.
as my groups grew, I started making more money, but I had already spent all my retirement and all my savings and all that stuff. So we got down pretty low just because I was running my own business and only making what I was able to make.
Yep. Okay. So you did that for 6, 7 years, and 19 happens. You sell the house, get out of debt, and start building back. Talk about those years post kind of 2019, 2020, when you start building from a clean slate, if you will.
Yeah, when you take away all the lies and confusion that hovers around us when we are owned by something else, when someone schools you and you aren't seeing clearly, everything's twisted perspective. When you really get clarity and you take out all those anxiousness, you can see what do I want my life to really look like. In the book, we put a satisfaction assessment where we want people to score, where are you satisfied in your life or not? It's a reality check. What's going on in your life? Are you happy with your health? Are you happy with your marriage? I meet so many people who have just given up on the idea that they could have a good marriage.
Mm.
It's just what it's going to be. We just don't like each other anymore.
Yep.
Okay, do something about it. People don't own it. And then when they get divorced, they like complain like it just fell apart. But you had the chance to work on it. You just weren't willing to do things.
Mm.
Anyway, so we looked at everything and started looking at it through the lens of, where is it at? Where do I want it to be? Why is it here? And what am I willing to do to get it here?
Yep.
And the practice and the discipline of using those tools to own it has helped us lift everything in our lives. And we really are living the life we really want to live right now. Right now, every day, I am living the life I want to live. And it's magical.
It's awesome. All right, so talk a bit about the challenges that you see CEOs facing, right? So you've got this group that you've pulled together, CEOs, and they're there to help each other, and certainly you've heard and learned things from them along the way.
Yeah.
What do you see the challenges that they're facing, and what do they learn being in the group?
Well, I think the challenges right now is they're just tired. They're just beat down, frustrated, exhausted, burned out. It's the last few years have been so hard. And you get through COVID, then you go through another thing, then you go through the Great Resignation, then you go through inflation, then you go through tariffs. I mean, every time we turn around, it's just another thing.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for them. It's a beatdown all the time. So they're exhausted. The challenge is, are you willing to do the things you need to do to run the business you want to run? And sometimes those decisions are really hard. But if you don't have other people who will support you in analyzing it, thinking about it, processing it, and then owning it, a lot of times the leaders let themselves off the hook because you're in charge. Who's going to say no?
Mm.
Well, I really should do this, but I don't want to deal with it, so I just won't do it. We keep those bad employees that we know are a cancer,
Mm.
but we keep them around because it's just a pain to think about. Well, what will it take to get rid of them? And
Mm.
what happens when they leave? And how will I just let it go?
Mm.
It's they have given up. And if you're going to be truly accountable, it's a proactive nature to do what you know you're supposed to do. But since you're the top dog, you get away with it. Get away with it means you can do whatever you want, but you eat the consequence later on. So
Yeah.
you're really not getting away with anything. It's like not flossing your teeth. You get away with it until
Mm.
you go to the dentist and he's like, you got 6 cavities. Give me 8 grand and I'll drill a hole in your mouth.
Yeah.
Then you're not getting away with anything. Those are the four traps that we see that we talk about in the book. You blame the economy, you blame Trump, you blame anyway, your employees, you blame the bank. You make excuses. Well, I didn't know this. How was I supposed to know tariffs are going to come? All these things that you take you off the hook of doing something about it. If blame and excuse don't work, you say, I can't let go of that employee. How
Mm,
would I ever find another person as good as that person, even though they're horrible for the company culture? Or you just wait and hope. That's the last one. Next year. We'll deal with it next year.
mm,
And next year never comes and it's always worse and it always just gets more complicated. Those four things keep you in a trap as a victim that you created because you allow it to happen. But when you get to that place in your life where you say, wait, no, nobody cares until I care enough to do something about it. So
yeah.
I'm going to make that problem go away. I'm going to address that issue. I'm going to make that decision I know I should have made. And that's what the peer groups do. You come to a room with other business owners who know what it looks like to face hard times and they know a BS answer when they hear one. And
Mm,
so when you're like, oh, I don't really have time for that, they go, really? You don't have time for that? Really?
mm,
We don't let people get away with stuff. We call it out because we love you. We
yeah.
want the best for you. And when you say you're going to do something, we're going to encourage you, but we're going to ask you, did you do it? We're creating the room for true accountability in your life. That's the biggest value of a peer group.
And see, and having that group be a people that understand the shoes that the other person's walking in,
Yeah.
so that they can relate, right?
Yeah, your golf buddies don't know what it's like to be the CEO of a company. Your
Right.
neighbors, as nice as they are, your family members, they don't know.
Yeah.
And people love to give you opinions. You should do this, you should do that. We don't give opinions in our meetings. We share our experiences. Well, I had an employee and here's what I had to do. Well, I did this instead. And you're gathering all this data and you still make your own decisions. It's still your decision. But you get more questions to what you already thought you knew everything about. And no one's going to just coddle you. We're going to challenge you because we want the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, you've really you have worn both hats, right? You have been an employee that was highly compensated, successful, making this great living, and you've been an entrepreneur figuring it out every day. One road led to a lot of money, and yet it took you off track, right? You were doing things that you're like, this is not godly. I'm being asked to do things where I feel like I'm in position where I'm doing things, taking ownership of it, that I'm not proud of, not who I am. So I'm going to go do my own thing and be my own man, be my own boss, and run my own show. And yet it led you into financial debt and pressure and stress and chaos that you had to rework. What's your take? Because I have many listeners that are either entrepreneurs or are in a W-2 in an employee situation, and they're thinking about and considering this idea of being on their own and being their own man or own woman, and being an entrepreneur. What's your take on the difference in the two worlds? And is one truly better or worse than the other? Is there a desired or is there an ideal? What's your take on all that?
I mean, you got to really want it to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you got to really, really want it. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to run peer groups to care and love and encourage business leaders
Mm.
and help them be their best. But the guy who owned the franchise quit. And after 3 years of doing this, he turned back in the franchise. I'm like, well, I'm just getting started. But I don't want to buy a franchise. I don't want to own it. I just want to be the guy who does the work. Well, I had a choice, quit or own it. And so I owned it. And so I became a reluctant entrepreneur. But anyone who's thinking about doing it, if you don't really, really, really want to do it, don't do it. It's hard. It's thankless. It's risk. No one appreciates, no one understands the load, the mental load you carry as an entrepreneur. Nobody gets it. And all your employees will look at you like you're just making all this money and taking vacations. And they don't know that you go to bed every night hoping to make payroll and the potential lawsuits that you hear about and the problems that are going on with all these lives that are in your world. It's exhausting. That being said, if you do really, really want to do it, it's awesome because you get to own the opportunity. You get to create something. You get to do things that nobody else will do because it's your vision. And
Yeah.
if you can do it with excellence and you can surround yourself with people who will encourage and support you in the journey, you can have tremendous success. My clients are so smart and so successful, and I'm so jealous of them. I watch how smart they are, but they get kicked in the teeth all the time.
Mm.
And every year we turn around, there's another thing coming at us. It's just hard. But if it's your passion, I encourage you to go chase it. Just, got to know what you're signing up for.
Right. For sure. For sure. it's interesting the having made this move myself from employee to self-employed slash entrepreneur. I would agree. I appreciate what you said there, Robert, which was, I was a 30-year W-2 employee, right? Worked for somebody else for 30 years of my career and very successful at it. Made good money, had great relationships, worked for some great employers. And yet what I found in making the move in 2021 to do my own thing was the goal was agency, right? The idea of control over the things I pursued, the clients I had, the time I spent doing it, the location I spent doing it, and to feel like I was adding value to the world, doing the work that I felt like would improve other people's lives.
Yeah.
That's what I felt called to do by God. Like, you have this heart to help others, so serve others, right? Go do something where you are in service to others, and that is what you've been put on the earth to do. And it's been awesome. And all the things that you talked about, scary, risky, wake up, like the pressures are different when you don't have that predictability to income and what's happening next. Now, I also have talked about many times on the show, the appearance or the veil of predictability in the corporate slash W-2 employed by
Yeah.
someone else world
Yeah.
can be false, right?
Yeah.
It can feel like, oh, everything's great, and then one day you show up and they go, hey man, it's been great having you, but really wish you the best. You're an awesome person, but we've made a change, and it's
Yeah.
no fault of yours, but you got to go. And it's like,
Uh,
what?
when I was a couple years into this business, Kathy said, "Look, go back and get a job. When you were in marketing, you made great money and it was easy for you, and you're struggling to get this business going." I said, "Kathy, every 3 or 4 years as a marketing guy, I would lose my job
Yeah,
because the things were going so good. They're like, yeah, this is expensive. We got it now. Let's go on our own. Or
right.
things are really horrible. It's expensive. Let's get rid of this guy." In the last company I worked for, I turned it around from just doing a few $100,000 a year to making $3 million a year in the first 3 years. Established, built a brand, built a recognition, got products in the market. All these, I ran that division, but they ran out of money because they were such bad business people that they had to lay me and a bunch of other people off. And I just realized I want to be in charge of my own decisions
Yeah.
because most business leaders survive despite themselves.
Mm,
And I don't want to be in the wake of that.
mm,
And so I'd rather make my own bad decisions and deal with it than to watch someone else make their own bad decisions and have to deal with them. And so from that perspective, yes, the agency of it where you can make a decision of where you go. And I get to be me. I don't have
yeah.
to worry about someone telling me, "Hey, don't be so religious." I had a boss actually give me a review. He said, "You're too religious." And I said, "Oh my gosh, you take your clients to nudie bars and you're all
Yeah.
married and you're all horned up with all these people around town, and I'm a bad guy because I don't do that?"
Right.
And he didn't put it in my review. He just said it to me. And I said, "I'd like to find the page where you're going to have the words 'you're too religious' on here because I'll make sure I hand that to my lawyer." But
Right.
I couldn't imagine the audacity of this person who was so immoral. And he was telling me that I was the bad guy. So I just think that the freedom to be able to be myself,
Yeah.
I wasn't walking around telling everyone they're going to hell, but I wasn't going to a nudie bar anymore.
Right.
And so I'm the bad guy. It was just so ridiculous. There is value in being able to be who you want to be.
100%. And yeah, having that control and not be, and understanding that the things that you're doing now, again, you talked about tariffs and changes, man, they hit CEOs right in the teeth. And not only CEOs, they hit entrepreneurs right in the teeth, right? I'm living through some of that right now. It were curveballs I didn't expect. And it's like, okay, you just kind of adapt and go through it. And so that can impact you whether you're employed or self-employed or, doing your
Yeah.
own thing. At the same time, you recognize I have the ability and the control in what I do from here. I'm not going to be held to what someone else has just decided. Okay, we're making a change. And like you said, too, a lot of times, a lot of success will bring, man, this guy's great. He's done all these great things. He's making a fortune, and that totally doesn't add up for whatever reason. So we're going to make a change so he makes less money intentionally. And then you think, man, this is a terrible way to motivate somebody. And yet these decisions get made all the time. And
Sometimes you just got to survive. And that's the challenge of running your own business.
right, 100%. Awesome. So, what are you excited about, Robert? What are you focused on going forward? I know you've got the book Nobody Cares. You've got your CEO group. Talk to me about what's on the horizon for you.
I'm really excited about the opportunity to take in the workshop that we created all around the world and teach businesses and groups and communities and churches about what it looks like to have a world of accountability. We look at accountability as a negative thing, but there's power and freedom and peace and joy and success in accountability. And I want to help people re-identify what it looks like to have a life of accountability, to have a business that is truly accountable. So we started a workshop. We did 2 of them last year. We're really excited about taking them around the world. I'll go anywhere in the world where someone will want to have a session about how do we create accountability in our world. And that to me is very exciting because the book is out there. We'll continue to promote it. But I love those moments where I get to work with people and face to face and talk and help them understand and apply the principles in their lives.
What do these workshops look like? Are they 2 days, 3 days, 1 day,
Half a day.
half a
Half
day?
a day, we can get it done. What we're doing is we're helping you take one area of your life, identify where you've played the victim, and then practice moving out of it. So we teach the principles. The first half of the book is about identifying the things that hold you back. There's that moment of clarity where you say
Mm.
nobody cares, and you're going to live the life you really want. You're going to pursue the life you really want. And then the back half of the book is the steps to go about doing that. So we in that workshop will take you through understanding how it works, identifying an area of your life that you're not satisfied with, identifying the traps that hold you back, having a decision to make that turning point, and then applying it right then and there. What am I going to do about it? So we want it to be really tangible so you can learn the skill, and that way you can apply it to everything in your life going forward.
Mm, love that. And you said so you've done 2 and you're looking to take it worldwide or go, where have you done? So I know you're in Dallas here, looking at Dallas area, you've done them in Dallas. And then do you have any desire where you're taking it when you talk about going global with it?
Yeah. Anywhere somebody wants me to go who wants to be having this culture of accountability. So I did it in California. I've done it in Iowa. I'm going to go back in Iowa in September just because I have contacts at these
Right.
places.
Sure.
Florida. Um, if I could choose, I'm looking for somewhere in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I love that strategy.
Somewhere where they have umbrella chairs out at the beach.
You're going to find your way
I
to that Hawaiian magpie or
That's right.
cowpie before too long, right?
I really, I love the idea of the freedom that comes with accountability. If someone will bring me to their community, I'll go anywhere, really. There's nowhere
Right.
I'm targeting.
Fantastic. Where can people find you, Robert, and keep up with your work or reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. And you can certainly go to my website, which is refdallas.com. That's my business website. Talk about the peer groups I run, the CEO groups. If you want to learn about the book, you can go to nobodycaresbook.com. And if you want to, start by taking the satisfaction assessment online. We have it online. It's free. It's in the book, but we wanted you to have access to it even if you didn't want to buy the book. And go to nobodycaresbook.com, take the satisfaction assessment. And then when you look at it, figure out why you're not satisfied. And then talk to somebody you trust and tell them why you're not satisfied. And start the process of being accountable. Just start little baby steps, but it starts with you identifying where in your life are you not happy with things and what do you want to do about it.
Fantastic. Man, I love it so much. Robert, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. Great conversation. I appreciate your heart, everything you're doing to spread the gospel and give this message to people of hope and taking the Lord out in the business world. Man, the business world needs it so much, and I just appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. To our audience, thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to the show. Always appreciate that you do that. If you would share this program with a friend, give us a nice rating, write us a review. All those things help us reach a broader audience. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Sardina. You've been listening to the Return to Authenticity podcast, and bye for now.